I got so much to say about Grace and why they will not lose. They're going to run the table. This year, they're going to run the table.
All the way.
You heard it here. If you haven't thought that and that is something you don't believe is going to happen, well, it's going to happen. They're going to run the table.
I mean, they're good. Are they run the table?
They're
good,
unbeatable.
Though?
They're unbeatable.
Run the table. You're saying, okay. But, okay. I think you can – I think Grace was likely finishing the regular season undefeated. That feels like a generally accepted view. Unlikely. If they're going to lose, it's going to be in the conference tournament, which, hey, tough conference. Crossroads is not an
number
easy
one
conference.
toughest conference in America. Crossroads.
Yes, and it's not just because of them. But
no, it's not.
You look right.
They have
it's not like, the best teams in the that's the best one. No, it's
not because they're number one.
Collectively.
Yeah.
Good conference. So their conference tournament is
five teams in the top 50.
Yeah,
five teams in the top 50 of performance, not coaches' polls, not this opinion
and the
of
CSPI,
actual performance. They have 5 teams.
I like them, but like the national tournament, here's the thing. The NAIA national tournament is so difficult. And I can't remember the last time a number one
the
seed,
most difficult.
Any number one seed actually went to the national championship game in the NAIA. It always feels like it's a 4 and a 6 or something. Like teams you don't expect, they get on a roll, they get hot. The teams that are 1-1-1,
typical tournament style stuff.
It is, and it makes it so much fun. It's what makes it so much fun.
It is, and
the brackets are
spoiler
busted.
alert. I'm just going to tell you,
but
spoiler alert.
They're going all the way.
They're unbeatable in the NAIA.
That's a very big claim.
Walk me down. All you got to do is walk me down.
Because as good as the players are, as good as the coaches, as good as the team has played this season, it is extremely difficult for me to believe that one team will have no stumbles between now and March when the national championship's crowned at Municipal Auditorium in Kansas City. That is a long tournament, back-to-back days, playing every single day. We have not seen them. I mean, they've played
I'm going to give you a stat, James. I'm going to give you a stat
every
on
day
Grace.
For 6 days. It's very hard to say that's a guarantee. I think
it's a guarantee.
It's a guarantee.
It is a guarantee, bro. They will not lose. I'm going to give you a stat.
What, 6 games or was it 5 games in 4 days?
I'm going to go down
4 games, 5 days?
to the Piston ring. Like we're going to get really inside the numbers. So as of before the New Year started, so all the games from November and December, which is a decent sample size, not a great sample size, but Grace really didn't play any cupcakes. Most teams go out and play some cupcakes just to get started. Fair. I'm not bashing anybody for playing down-sized teams to get warmed up.
That's part of the strategy.
It's a good idea, to be quite frank. Yeah. To get going. But some do a little more than others. Some just don't have good teams around them to warm up with, so they have to play really bad teams. That's kind of Mayville State's problem. Their numbers is a little bit fluffy. I like Mayville State. Don't get me wrong. The optic test on Mayville State is good. So I'm not bashing them. I'm just saying it is unfortunate that their cupcake schedule, which is quite large at the beginning, is so fluffy. It's a lot of icing.
The Comet Nation's about to send a storm your way.
Yeah, you can play 2 games. In 2 games, your win margins, total of almost 200 points. I mean, come on. That's a little too fluffy.
It's only a couple games.
Yeah. It's not their fault. I mean, they don't have a lot of options. All right.
I'm looking at the Grace schedule.
Grace doesn't have cupcakes. They really don't.
No, what? Kentucky Christian 112-50?
Yeah, it couldn't.
That's not a conference game. That's one
out of league.
Grace is very good, but
I'm just telling you that's not a super cupcake. I mean, there are cupcake teams they could play. They go and play Purdue, and they get waxed, but they had a good outing.
It was within 50. That's pretty good. Purdue was at
the time they were number one team in the world.
Exactly.
Of college.
Yes, we keep this in perspective. This is not playing just any D1.
Yeah. No, I'm sure that was fun. But anyway, let's stay on track. All right. So here's a stat for you. There is a NBA stat that has trickled down into college, and it's a performance stat that measures how well you do over 40 minutes played. Now, there's 40 minutes in a game, but not every player, most players do not play 40 minutes a game. It's rare, especially when you have a deep bench. You're just not going to play a lot of time compared to 40 minutes. So it may take 2 games, 3 games. So they measure things based on averages and what it would be like to have you in the game for 40 minutes. James, listen to me closely. This is a Grace Lancers stat. All right. In the top 100, now this is based on November and December, top 100 players in the NAIA. I've already established there's 3,300 players plus in the NAIA, men's basketball. Top 100, they had 11 players in the top 100 of performance based on scoring per 40 minutes. That's unreal.
That's beyond your first bench. You're down to your second bench, and you're still top 100.
There's nothing like that. Now that they've played some conference, and it may have eased a little bit, but through 2 months of plays, and that's about 13 games, I guess. That is unbelievably impressive, especially not playing cupcakes. And
not many. They played a couple.
Those games are not really cupcake games. Grace is just that good. It may seem like in that isolated vacuum, but in the big scope of things, it's not. And you have 11 performing players. Most teams can't even play 11 players. It's just baffling. So to say that a big tournament and which is to me a harder than a triathlon for these players, because they have to play so many games in such few days to win out. And you got to be deep. You got to be super, super deep. And it's not just trading in a player that will give your best players a breather. It is you're going to get production minutes out of all these guys. And the deeper you get production, the better this is going to go. So you got arguably one of the top 3 best players in the NAIA in Elijah Malone. What is he averaging in minutes?
23 minutes a game right now.
Barely half the game. Barely half the game. So you're also not going to see these guys show up and overwhelm you with individual stats. Why? Because there's so many stats getters. There's so many players. They can all perform. So every coach in the NAIA wants to be head coach Scott Moore.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Coach Scott. I don't know why I said Scott Moore, but Coach Scott of Grace.
Yeah. He's got 5 guys. Wow, it's crazy. Only 5 guys are averaging double digits.
His biggest problem is trying to figure out the formula of how to keep these guys in and out and a chemistry alive the whole game. Well, he's got to figure it out, because I don't look through the schedule and just make sure I'm not wrong, but has anybody gotten within less than 10 points of them in their wins?
Let's look here.
They've only won. Purdue's only also, which is exhibition.
Marion was 11 points. Wesleyan was 11 points.
There you go.
Indiana Wesleyan.
Yeah. Great team. Great team.
Yeah, very good. It's really not close, is it?
Yeah. Yeah,
really
of course not.
Nothing's close.
And
well, it'll be interesting right here. We get to Mount Vernon, Nazarene, Bethel,
that's going to be
Marion.
fun.
That's a tough.
Bethel is
okay.
That stretch right there.
And they followed up with Indiana Wesleyan right here.
There's a 4-game stretch that
wow.
is going to be probably their toughest stretch.
Yeah,
all right.
Right there.
So
okay, if they just steamroll that, I will reconsider the possibility that they're going to run the table.
You heard it first here.
They're
not going to have any problems.
They're
not
no
going to have any
problems.
problems.
What's the narrowest win margin here of these 4 games? Mount Vernon, Bethel, Marion, Indiana Wesleyan. What do you think's the narrowest win? Keeping in mind, so far the narrowest is only 11.
I think one of those teams gets it under 10. I think there's a 8 or 9 point victory that we would say is kind of close, and I think it's going to be just because of the way it winds down at the end. I mean, this is conference play, and in almost any other conference scenario outside of Grace, I would go, anybody beats anybody. There's conference is tough. Conference play, your bottom teams, a broken clock is right twice a day, as they say.
Yeah.
Things can happen. No things will happen to Grace this year. Those things, right? I'm just telling you.
The clock will be right 0 times a day, according to John, when Grace is playing. That's just how it's going to be.
I'm not concerned about commentator curse. I'm not concerned about any of that. These guys, these guys have it under control.
Not that I'm going to help you with your argument, but take a look here. They average 93.75 a game. I don't know if you guys can see that on the screen, but what's wild is only 5 players are averaging double digits, and the next is 6.9 points. Like, it's a lot of guys averaging 6, 5, 4, 3. They're coming in, like you said, that efficiency.
But just look at their time played, which is not a ton. That's why it goes down to performance. 20
minutes a game.
Well, those are that's just you got 2 guys, starters, which represent probably the best backcourt in NAIA right now.
That's hard to argue against.
Bro. It's crazy.
They can shoot, they can score, they can do whatever.
Yeah, there's
a really whatever they want.
Yeah. And we haven't even talked about the scariest thing. The scariest thing is go through that roster. It's all juniors except Elijah Malone and one other. I forget. But they're bringing back significant
players.
Wow. And Coach Scott Moore is
4 freshmen.
Is a great recruiter.
Wow. 4 freshmen, 3 seniors. Yeah. Elijah Malone's a senior, but at 6'10".
Okay, yeah. So in your top 5 minutes getters, your lineup of those most played players, the smallest one is 6'5". So you're ranging from 6'5" to 6'10". You got 6'7", 6'8", 6'8". I mean, it's a big team. They could. I don't know that they've been challenged. That might be the biggest weak link for Grace right now. Is that where have they been challenged? And
other than Purdue.
Well, I mean, you can't count that.
Yeah.
Arguably one of the best player in college basketball right now is at Purdue.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're not going to. They haven't seen a real challenge, and is that? I guess if you're trying to argue with me, and I'd love to hear anybody, feel free, walk me off this ledge. Because I think it is audacious. I think it's crazy to say no one will lose, especially in today's competitive climate. They're not losing. Yeah. They're not losing, James. Take it to the bank. They're not losing.
Still averaging 90 points a game in the Crossroads conference play. That's
in the toughest, and that's the most audacious thing about it is the number 1 conference in the nation. And they're not going to lose.